welcome to our webinar, How to Do Business with Volkswagen. I have Shaquanta Locke, who is the manager of supplier diversity over at Volkswagen, which I have to say, I'm a proud Volkswagen owner, very, very proud. And I will let Shaquanta go ahead and do her introduction so we can learn a little bit about her, and then we'll go into the slide presentation. And as a reminder, we're going to keep everyone on mute, and we'll take questions at the end. So,
Yep.
Shaquanta, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right. So is everybody able to hear me? You can just give me a thumbs up. Okay. All right. So I am Shaquanta Locke, and I am the Supply Diversity Manager for Volkswagen. I've been with the company for a little bit over 15 years, but I have always been in purchasing, just not necessarily as a supplier diversity professional. Before I stepped into this role, late 21, early 2022, around that time frame, I was a buyer. So I know what it's like to be on the other side of the business. And so I was typically buying investment equipment, conveyors, other kinds of large invest items for the plant here in Chattanooga. And previous to that, I actually worked at Toyota for a couple of years. And so I'm from Chattanooga, but I've always been in automotive, surprisingly. But yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. I mean, outside of, being a Volkswagen employee, I'm a wife and a mom. I have 3 kids. I have 2 boys and a girl. The boys are 14 and 12, and the little girl is 7. So it's an interesting dynamic at my house on a regular basis. So that is me. If you all are ready, I'll share my screen and we'll get into the presentation.
I think we're ready, and you sound like a busy woman over there.
As soon as I get off of here today, my sons are trying out for soccer at school this year. And so apparently somebody left their inhaler in the car. And so, yeah, I'll be doing that when I leave here.
Sounds like a lot of us, the multitasking. All right, I'll let you take it. You should be able to share your screen easily.
Yeah, let me know if you all can see the presentation.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So we'll get going. And just so you all know, you would think that I am like totally a presenter because I've been at this company for so long and because, I probably presented 50 million times, but this is not my thing. So we're just going to have a conversation. I'm going to go through my
Perfect.
slides and we'll talk about it. And then at the end, we'll have some
All right,
questions and
no
answers.
worries. We're just grateful you're here sharing your knowledge. We're grateful.
Thank you. All right. So obviously, I'm not going to read the statement to you. I don't want to do that to you. But supply diversity has been a part of Volkswagen for, I think, at this point, more than 10 years. When I started here in 2008, we didn't initially have a program, but it started a couple of years later. And so we've had other people in this role, but they definitely put the mission vision in place and got us to a position where we now have internal goals for the whole procurement department. And I'm hoping at this point, since I'm now in this role, I can move it out into the area of the business owners, because obviously they're the people putting in the requisitions, they can spend the money. And so I'm hoping to get to a place where they also have similar goals. And then I can get some of you in front of them a little easier, because then, they'll have the same requirements. Volkswagen Group of America. So I think you all are probably pretty aware that we are an international company. We have over 670,000 employees worldwide. I mean, we have locations in multiple countries, over 72 vehicle plants. We have a couple of upcoming projects that'll be happening. I'm not sure if you're familiar with PowerCo, but that's a partnership that we have that's going to be something that's going to happen in a couple of years. They're already breaking ground on that. And then also we're going to be doing some work in Canada for battery factories. So looking forward to that as well. So if you all are interested in hearing more about that as we go, I recommend staying in touch, and I'll share my contact information. All right, so MEB. So I'm not sure if you all have ever seen the ID4, but we have an electric vehicle. We actually manufacture that here at the plant. So here in Chattanooga, this is the only US plant that we have. We manufacture the Atlas and also the ID4. ID4 is a complete BEV vehicle, and it's one that we like to believe is going to set us apart, in the market. You already have the Teslas and the other vehicles that are out there very similar, but ID4, in my opinion, is a good contender to that. So I'm sure you all heard of, Dieselgate at some point or another, but since then, Volkswagen has taken a lot of strides in the direction of being more environmentally friendly, um, working towards e-mobility. I don't know if you all have electric vehicles, but I'd like to believe that you have the, I guess, ease of being able to charge those on a regular basis. And so we've taken um, a lot of consideration from the businesses, excuse me, the customers that we have, and we know that we need to improve in that area. And so we are also working toward providing more charging for the ID4. We have Electrify America, which is a part of Volkswagen, not necessarily Volkswagen, but a part of. And so through that partnership, we're hoping to electrify
Hello.
Volkswagen procurement. So Volkswagen procurement is a rather large team. When you think about the management plus all of the buyers, we have indirect and direct purchasing. We have over 200 employees in this group. So on the indirect side, you have people that are here in this facility. Most of them, they're buying logistics, investment, marketing. You have people that are also on the direct side that are buying, they're doing wire harnesses, doors, interior, exterior, everything is basically being sourced here. We have people from around the world. Obviously, you can probably tell by the description that you see up here. This is our most recent org chart. My new boss, Mark Yannick, he's been with us since August of last year. I like to make sure that I tell people that I don't know, he's like super interested in learning. So I don't know if you could imagine being in a country where this, supplier diversity is not really a topic at all. And if it is, maybe it's a little bit different. You have people that do social procurement, so maybe they're looking at people with disabilities only being more involved in your workforce, things like that. Not necessarily coming to a country where you're learning about people of color and women and the different certifications and the requirements that most companies have in regards to supplier diversity. But he's coming here and he's been trying his best to learn it. Very supportive. Under him, obviously, you have all of the people in the different groups that make up the indirect and the direct. So this is our team of directors for the commodities. And then I actually am the only manager that falls under the CPO. Everybody else is on the director level, but you can see here is quite a spread of people. I want to talk to you about our diverse spend metrics. So our annual goal is 10%, 10% overall. We look at MBEs. We have a 10% goal there, but then on the WBE side, we have 2%. I really like to stick to the overall 10% so that you all can kind of see where we have been and where we're going. I like to see a much larger percentage. I'm kind of getting a push from the HR side to say, okay, instead of us always having this 10% or having it for this long stretch of time, maybe we can move it up to 15%. And I'll explain to you a little bit more in some of the slides, that I'll present here in a little bit why that's a little more difficult for me. But in the meantime, I'm typically harassing people, presenting new companies to them, maybe trying to find some opportunities for companies that, who knows, maybe they've done business with us in one capacity and now they want to come in another. We have a lot of companies here locally that maybe have supported on the tier 2 level that now feel like they're, ready to go to the tier 1. So lots of discussions around those things. Also community involvement through the chamber, urban league, those different groups to try to make sure that we are being as inclusive as we can when it comes to the supply chain. Now, if you have not registered, this is the information to show you where you do that. VWGroupSupply.com. It's up here. Hopefully you can see my cursor. Type that in, VWGroupSupply.com. Let me see if I can put it in the chat. I will try that. But that is where you go to get registered. I think it is quite surprising that we have such a large website, but it doesn't tell you how to get registered. So something that I'm working on because we want to make sure that that's a whole lot more visible. Because right now, if you just look for Volkswagen Group of America, will not redirect you here. So make sure that you take this information down. And if you want to take a screenshot, and you let me know if that's if that's okay. If they can take screenshots, I'm okay with it. But you can take a screenshot of this, so that you'll see where to go, which is the cooperation tab. And then you get down to procurement. You can look at the appendices and all of that, if you choose to. But at least this gives you a visual, excuse me, a visual of where you need to go. So I'll keep it here for just another second, but take a screenshot and also look at the chat.
And I'll also send it out to the group as well. So,
Okay, awesome. Yep, so vwgroupsupply.com, that's where you go to get registered. I kind of have this thing where I tell new companies, and I mean, I really do stick to it, but I always tell new companies that I don't take um, meetings for capability reviews until you have registered. And I have to do that almost because the registration process is a little bit on the intense side. But what I don't want to do is start scheduling tons of meetings and then have people never register, because you'd be surprised how often it has happened in the past. And so I recommend getting registered. Um, and then just, whenever you get a chance to complete that process, just reach out, and then we can try to get you in touch with somebody on your commodity side to speak to you about your capabilities. All right. This talks a little bit more about your vendor requirements, obviously the vwgroupsupply.com. Now, when you get into the system to get registered, there are certain classifications that you need to make sure that you have. RFQA is one of them, and GPSON. RFQA is basically the designation that you need to be able to receive your RFP electronically, because most buyers are now sending theirs out through the system versus emailing them. And if there's RFP and you're on the bidders list and you don't have this RFQA selected, you will not receive it. So make sure that you check that off. I'm not sure what step in the registration process this comes in. I believe it may be towards the end, but make sure that you select that. And then GPSON. That is, in I hate to say it, but a lot of these are German acronyms, because we all, just so you know, we all use the same system. When I say we, I mean all of purchasing worldwide. So once you get registered, anybody can see you in here. It's not just going to be for us here in the United States. Somebody in Canada, somebody in India, anybody can see your registration. Um, Same thing with the system, RFQA and GPSON. GPSON is the negotiating system that we use, specifically on the indirect side. So the negotiations, even though people still do the in-person or the phone and things like that, some people are interested in doing the reverse auctions, and GPSON is our reverse auction system. And so if you don't have that selected, somebody wants to negotiate with you, you will not be pulled into the negotiation. So you want to make sure that you have that selected as well. After you have a full registration, on the direct side, meaning anything that goes on the car, I'm sorry, I didn't even explain that. So our indirect is anything that's not on the car. Direct, anything that goes on the car. So if you will be doing something that will be on the car, at some point you'll be asked to have a formal Q rating, but you'll get more information on that after you register and once you actually receive an RFP. Formal Q is the quality rating system that they use here internally to be able to determine if you're technically capable to provide a part for the vehicle or any piece to the vehicle. On the indirect side, specifically in the area of construction, or if you will be putting any type of equipment into the plant floor, you're required to have a Tennessee contractor's license. Now, when we talk about Tennessee contractor's license, a lot of people think it's just a typical business license, but it is not. It's this specific special license that you have to have via the state of Tennessee. You have to do testing for it. And my understanding is that it's one of those things that might be costly. But again, this is only in the event that you're providing some type of equipment and service where you're actually putting something into the shop floor. And if later somebody wants to get more information on that, I can share that at a later date. But the Tennessee contractor's license is it's actually required. Otherwise, we cannot make an award to a company without it. S rating. So most people use the term ESG. We also talk about ESG, but internally within Volkswagen, internationally, we have the sustainability rating. So whenever you finish getting registered, if you choose to, you can go ahead and start the S rating process. I like to recommend it for the diverse companies because I like to be able to present you and say, by the way, this company is already registered and they have an S rating, because it's one of those things. If you don't have it, you also cannot be awarded a project depending on what their project is and what the value of it might fall into. Um, to begin it, you have to do what's called a SAQ. It's a questionnaire. Go through that whole process. You'll be graded. If you have a passing score, great. If you don't have a passing score, which you really have to have, the team will guide you and they will support you in improving any internal processes and procedures that you might have so that you can update and you can keep taking that test until you get the passing score. So it's not one of those situations where you take it and then you don't pass and that's kind of it. That's not how this works. And I have some documents and I can share them and they can come out with the other data. It just talks a little bit more about the S rating, but also that bwgroupsupply.com site, it has information out there too. So you can review all of this there, but I can send it too. Now, in the area of staffing, we use an MSP. We use Bartech. Well, it's Barpellum now, but here is the information for the program representative. Please take that information down, but we use an MSP. There are situations where we do SOWs for staffing, but it's not often. It really just kind of depends on what the topic might be. I do like to recommend that even if you are a staffing company, still get registered with us, not necessarily just going directly to Barpellum, still get registered with Volkswagen directly, because if a SOW comes up and we think you're a good fit, we like to still be able to add you to the bidders list. See, there's more information on that S rating. You can go and pull information, same website as before. So it's funny that I'm doing this today because I actually had my roundtable scheduled for this morning and it got spicy. But we have roundtables, or at least I try to have them with the different directors and managers in purchasing. I think it's important for us to have like some super open discussions about how I see the program working versus how they see it with their teams and how the process operates and things like that. So we have these discussions just talking about ways we can improve processes and procedures. If it's not possible, what else can we do differently? If a system situation that needs to be updated, maybe what are some of the best tools that they can give me? Because I didn't mention this, but I am actually all of supplier diversity. So it's just me. So I have to rely heavily on the team, to make sure that they support me in this. Um, Also pipeline creation. This is another thing that I've been working on. So, I talked to you about RFQA, GPSON, sustainability, and what the RFP may or may not look like. This probably all sounds super foreign to some people. And what I want to prevent is you receiving an RFP and being completely confused. So I would like to implement some training where online, prior to actually receiving an RFP, you're able to go into the system. You can see all of this stuff. You can maybe get some hands-on experience with it in a test environment just to see how do you poke around when you get an RFQA? What does it look like when it shows up in your inbox? You know what I mean? So I'm really hoping that this is something that we can pull off this year, but I think it'll be super beneficial. In the end, I'd like to basically have a transcript for all of the companies that have gone through this training so that when somebody is interested in talking to them, that they'll know, hey, they're ready. They know what to look for. They know how this process works because, you'd be so shocked if you've never seen this before. You're going against companies they've probably been doing business with us for years. They get the RFP, they already know what to do, and they just kind of take off. You've never seen it before. You're going to be confused. And this is from somebody who's released the RFP multiple times. You are going to be confused just because there's hundreds of documentation, hundreds of pieces of documentation, rules, requirements, people. It can be a lot. And so I want to make sure that I prepare people in advance so that you don't get overwhelmed and then, maybe drop off of a process. I don't want that to happen. So that's what I'm hoping to work on right now. And I had an event last year. I actually probably should have included some of my pictures. But we have an event called Partnering for Success. But this year I added a little piece, and I'm calling it My Journey to Equity, because that's where I want to take things, like I just talked about, with preparing all of you in advance before receiving an RFP. The best way to do that, aside from the system, is through, these items here. Mentoring, meaning this is not just a purchasing function. We can talk to vendors, but oftentimes we're running RFPs. The people on the technical side, they can be involved in this too. And so I'm hoping at some point they can become mentors. Um, then obviously, outreach. We have so many people in this company that are like, so, like really, really intelligent, smart people. And I feel like if I could get some of those people on my side, I wouldn't have any problems going forward. And so, I talked about harassing people, and so this is a part of my outreach. Is I'm gonna harass them until they do what I want them to do, and that means becoming a mentor. Providing a way to inform the vendor so they know that we expect. I mean, what we expect and how we operate, because Volkswagen is very different from other OEMs. Um, Development, tier one and tier two matchmaking. That's something we have to do better about. I don't have a tier two tracking system, but in an effort to make sure, that we are still doing that, we pointed out in our RFP template and make sure that companies are submitting back in writing or via email, the different partnerships they're trying to form. And if anybody needs support, obviously I do that. Sometimes I have companies that maybe one does one thing, one does another. They can't do it separately. And so I pair them as much as where I can, to try to see if they're willing to do business together. And so we have to do better there. And then rolling out that training. Upcoming opportunities. So I wanted to talk to you and let you know that I'm going to be actually receiving a business plan for the full year in February. Once I have that, if we stay in touch, you can make sure to reach out and just kind of let me know that you're open to opportunities. Or, hey, I may just go ahead and put it out there and share it with Nabo, but there will be a business plan submitted to me. So I will have a better idea of what our upcoming opportunities look like for the full year. And then here is my information. So please take it down. Um, I am surprisingly responsive. So if you send me an email, I do answer it. The supplier diversity inbox, I check it too. I don't check it as often, but I check my inbox daily, and I respond on a regular basis. And so you don't have to worry about sending me something and not hearing back from me.
That's great.
All right.
Is it so?
That is it.
So, with the business plan for upcoming opportunities that you'll get in February, I can, I have a distribution list for all of our women, and along
You
with,
can share that.
I can absolutely share
Okay.
that. And any obviously personal connections you make, they would obviously be notified as well. So,
Right.
yeah, all these women know that I'm pretty good at getting information out, tracking them down. And yes, we would love. I did have a question before we
Okay.
open it up. So is it the RFP training program that you mentioned that you're trying to
Mhm.
get off the ground?
I'm trying to get it rolled out. We have an internal system called LMC, and so I'm hoping to get that. Get a what do you call it? A person who creates training. What is the term I'm looking for? And
Oh,
Instructional
instructional design.
designer.
Designer.
Yes, I'm cray cray.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank
that's
you,
what
so
I
Bonnie.
I'm working on having an
Yeah.
instructional designer create that for me. I'm already talking to some people and then have it put onto our LMC.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
But yeah,
And
sorry, you had a question.
oh, no. I just wanted to get clarification on that because we would absolutely be also happy to host that through Nabo if you wanted to kind of do a test run.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And let's see. So I know there's a few questions in the chat, and then we can also open it up to, so we have a question. What goods/services will be in the RFP program? And that's from
So
Marianella.
I'm not sure just yet. I'm waiting on that business plan, but typically there's a lot of IT. There's always a ton of IT and also a lot of logistics. On the direct side, right now, I'm kind of receiving that a little bit at a time. I don't know if there's anybody here that is into steel or if you know someone that is, but that's something else that we're looking for right now that I can think of right off the top of my head. But once I have that business plan, I'll be able to give more detailed information.
All right. Questions?
I'm
Hi,
ready.
my name
Mhm.
is hello. My name is Rose Lajeez. I'm the CEO of RL Engineering Tech Solutions, and we provide tech and engineering services and data analytics, AI, and more. My questions are one, what I'm familiar with the supplier diversity area. I think you guys are the first ones that are both international and international. What requirements, other than like the basic requirements, like making sure you have the capabilities, and I'm making some assumptions. So, your capability statement, is there anything else that you have seen that may be different with VW than others that you would suggest like for us to have ready to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, number one, I didn't mention this, but you have to make sure that you are, we don't take self certifications. So, any certifications that you may have, make sure that you communicate what that is. And then, as far as the things that we require that other ones don't, it is a lot different. We have what we call a book of standards, like from the IT, we have a book of standards. And so, it's not something that is available just right right out on the website or anything. But if you want to reach out, I can see if I can share that with you. But the book of standards on the IT side is definitely something that is required. I can tell you from my time in Invest, one of the things that we definitely would look for, it would be people who were able to do maintenance, specifically on, we call it something German. So let me not tell you that, but basically there's a system for training, and if people don't meet this specific training. Oh, and we have a system called KVS. You have to have access to that too. I'll explain that. But this specific training tool that we have, if a company doesn't know how to do certain kind of maintenance based on Volkswagen standards, they'll almost like disqualify you right away. And I'm trying to get us to a place where now, if people need to know how to do this training, that we teach them about it up front before RFP even comes out, because nobody knows that you're gonna get an RFP, and then all of a sudden somebody tells you you need to know this unique German way of doing maintenance on equipment. You know what I mean? And then KVS, this other system that we use, that is a system only on the direct side if you're providing some on that side. But you have to have access to the system. There's a fee. I don't think it's a large fee, but you have to pay this fee because any changes that they make to drawings or engineering, anything like that, is only kept in KVS. Nobody's going to email it to you or call you about it. You have to have access to the system and keep up with it. So those are just some of the things that I can think of right off the top of my head. Oh, and a DUNS number. It's not so specific to us, but you have to have a DUNS number to get into our system. There's no other way.
This number. Okay. Desiree, do you want to go ahead with your question? And if I
Yes,
did not pronounce your name right, I apologize.
you did. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. I was just, I actually put it in the group chat, and I just said I see a couple of other people were asking if you have any need for training and development, executive coaching, human resources consulting, and instructional designers. We're channel partners with Ken Blanchard and CCL, Center for Creative Leadership, and John Maxwell. So we have quite a bit of content and about 30 assessments as well.
Okay. So I'm not aware if we have that need just yet, but
Hmm.
what I do recommend is that you still, you go into the system, get registered, and then send me your capability information so that I
Okay.
can start running it across the different, people within the company, because it's weird. We have Volkswagen in Chattanooga, but then we have Volkswagen corporate, and we're trying to combine them, but we still have the separate departments. And so I can share them with the different business groups in the different areas. And then they'll usually come back and say, I don't have a need this year, but I may have it next year. Or they may just happen to have something they're working on right now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm.
Perfect.
Already
Great
registered,
question.
so thanks.
Yay. I love it. And I know Vanessa also registered also. And Christina, I see your hand up.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Christina Dixon. I'm the managing shareholder for ACUS Law. We're an employment law firm based in California. And I was just wondering, because this is really specific to each organization, some orgs do and some orgs don't, but I have found that not a lot of times legal participates in supplier diversity at the organization. I'm just wondering if if legal actually participates in supplier diversity.
I don't think they participate specifically because I will say this, like our legal department, because Chattanooga is a kind of a small place, they work with just local law firms if they need support. But to say that they specifically are looking for those that are diverse, I'm not sure that they are. But it's funny because I reached out to legal this morning, asked them about some antitrust things, and I actually have a meeting scheduled with them Wednesday morning. So I can ask that question.
Okay, great.
I can
Thank you.
definitely ask that question, but we have a meeting this Wednesday. I can talk to him about it.
Yeah, I mean, I have found, some of the companies that we work with have said, it's great that we're meeting with you and like legal doesn't have, they're not tasked with any ESG goals. And so like
Yeah,
supply diversity doesn't even need to get like credit per se for bringing in somebody from legal. So that's
yeah.
I was curious about. It's
Well,
it's a strict vertical.
I will say this, if they did bring someone in that was diverse and they had a purchase order issued, we would count it because I'm pulling that information from our SAP system so I can see who's receiving orders and all of that kind of stuff. I do know that they're very well aware of the process and the percentages and the requirements because they actually update our documents on a pretty regular basis. And so I know they know it's there. It's just, are they actively saying, maybe we need to do this too? I
Mm,
can't say for sure,
okay.
but I'm going to ask.
Sure. Yeah. And some of them they'll go in and one of our organizations uses a kind of a general system that you register with that system and then they'll search for you. But it just kind of depends on whether if they're tasked with any ESG goals in their
Right.
department, whether they even participate.
Because it'd be nice to know if they have it. We call it the MBO, but like your annual review, it'd be nice to know if that is something that's on their MBO
Mhm.
because it may not be. I know everybody within the organization, we have a goal to live diversity, but it's not specific to supplier diversity. It's more so like on the people focused side of the coin. But yeah, it'd be nice to know that though.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Great question. So we do have some questions in the chat, and I recognize that some of them may have either been answered or overlapped. So we have, do you ever have a need for leadership development or team training? And is there ever a need for 401k management and employee financial wellness programs?
So
Oh.
I'm sorry. So
Oh,
leadership development, yes. I know that there's typically a need for that. So I think that's something you should shoot for. If you want to start, presenting your capabilities to Volkswagen for these things, definitely. Now, on the financial wellness side of things, I'm not exactly sure who is handling that, but they literally just finished putting the bank downstairs because they want to teach financial literacy. The bank just opened up about a week or two ago, so I know that that's something that is being worked on, and they want to make sure that the company or that the employees are doing better financially. It's just that I'm not sure if they hired someone out to do that or if it was somebody that's handling HR and insurance, but it's a question that I can check into.
perfect. Okay, question from Asia. I'm CEO of a leadership development and executive coaching company. I deliver most of the speaking and training myself. Do you work with companies as small as mine?
I'm sure we would. We don't necessarily look for the size of companies unless it's something where, I don't know, we're shipping, hundreds of millions and dollars of, equipment or something like that. Something like this is definitely fine. I worked with a company last year and I think my spend with them was $800. Like they're very small and local, but it doesn't really matter to me if you can fulfill the need.
Okay. All right. Now, do we have anything that's not answered? Desiree, did you get your question answered completely? I believe you did.
Thank you.
Yes, okay, just making sure.
And
Rose
thank
got
you for saying instructional design because I was having a moment.
Oh,
You're more than welcome. Yes. And we do leadership development as well. So I definitely will be submitting. Excited.
Good deal.
That's great. That's great news. And Vanessa has a question. Are you tracking diversity spend through certification? I'd love to chat with you. Okay, making sure this wasn't just to me. I'd love to chat with you directly as companies outsource certification to Go To Girl LLC. And that's from Vanessa. She's
Mhm.
our Kentucky NABO chapter president.
Okay, let's talk about it because right now, as far as tracking the spend, I'm doing that manually and I'm doing it based on, I get a data scrub run and I just kind of see who has a certificate as being an MBE or WBE. And from that, I kind of move forward. And I'm not sure if I even understand, if I'm answering your question properly, but I do think that we should take some time and schedule a call, talk about it.
Thank you.
Mhm. I used to live in Kentucky when I worked at Toyota.
Right down the street from me.
Hmm. Yep, I don't like snow, so I came back home.
Oh
All that
boy.
white stuff.
Hey, I'm Chicago. Careful.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
All right, let's see. Do we have what else do we have? So other questions since we have,
yeah,
everyone
I
on
have
the
a
line.
question.
Perfect.
Right, I have a question. So how does the typical process with working with VW look like? So there RFP list goes out and you're interested and then you go in and you answer with a proposal. I just want to kind of understand how your system works. Those who are interested, so RFP list comes out, it has deadlines, submittals are done via I'm guessing the supplier system or maybe another system. They get, somebody gets chosen. How does that process look like?
Um, so this will be my first time ever releasing a full business plan. They actually, on the indirect side, specifically put together this template so that we can make sure we put the things out there ahead of time this time. So it'll be the first time doing that. Typically, what happens is internally, we will send a RFP out. I mean, we will create a bidders list. All of us get to chime in and say who we think should be on the list. We don't usually take people off, but we always add on to it. Once that bidders list is approved internally, then that RFP is released via the online system. It's the one where I talked about RFQA. It'll be sent out to you via email. Oftentimes, you don't hear from a buyer before it gets released. So it'll be kind of a surprise. One day you'll just get this message and it'll say, you have an RFP waiting for you, and it'll ask you to go and read it and see if the requirements fit. The first thing you'll need to do is either identify yourself as somebody who will participate or somebody who will not be participating. If you are going to be participating, then continue to read through and then make sure you take note of all of the deadlines. You'll have deadlines that show you when you're supposed to be done asking and getting questions answered. So you'll have a Q&A template. After that portion of it is complete, then some people, depends on the topic, will have you come in for a stand-up presentation. It might be in person, it might be virtual, but it just kind of depends on the topic. After that, then we do an internal review. It is a technical evaluation. Not usually, it's always something that's done on the business owner side. So they're the technical experts. They tell us whether or not, based on your response, if you're technically okay or technically not okay. If we see things that maybe don't seem right, like maybe you completely underpriced it compared to everybody else or something like that, we'll reach out and they'll say, hey, are you sure you understood the scope? These are questions that are being asked. Do you want to go back and resubmit your bid and, just try to get aligned with all of the other bids? But that technical evaluation tells us who to negotiate with. Once that technical evaluation is done, after that is negotiations and then the decision is made. So that's it in a nutshell. That's like a very brief version of what it looks like.
And typically, how long is that? Like, Like a few months from the time?
Ideally, it should take you a couple of months.
Mhm,
I- About 12 weeks is
mhm.
what should be
Yeah,
happening. But you
right.
do have the occasional requester that comes to you super last minute and they
Right.
want to run a whole process, and maybe you don't have time, so you have to try to squish it in and see if you can, minimize certain things in the process to try to get RFP out. And
Mhm.
because we don't really allow any single sourcing. If
Mhm.
there is a situation where there's single sourcing at least above a certain value, there are things in place that requires certain signatures all the way up to the CFO. So nobody's going to be single sourcing. So the goal is to get it in on time so that people have at least, around 12 weeks to respond and, complete the RFP.
When you just mentioned that, so through single sourcing, so is there any threshold or amount that those departments are able to
Single source?
single source?
Yes.
I know in the government it's 50,000. So
It's
some
70
of
and
us
below.
like 50,000 deals. They're quick and easy to get out. We like those.
Yep. It's 70 and below.
70 and below. That's a good number.
Yep. Well, and it's a translation thing, but we have A, B, and C parts purchasing. So C part is 70 and below.
And that would be automotive and non-automotive, or what did you say? Indirect, non-direct?
It's mostly going to be on the indirect side. The direct side, they're working on getting their C parts up and running, but it'll probably be very similar. But with the C part, we don't even see, like as a buyer, I would never even see those because the system will automatically issue a purchase order and the buyer never even sees it. Like that's how single sources work.
And you had said when the last minute, usually if I'm working on proposals with clients, anything less than 21 days, I advise them not to spend the money and time to do, even if it's an emergency situation. So do you feel like that, they at least give you probably
Listen, I want to be very honest with you. I
Mhm.
tell vendors this all the time. Do not let us bully you into responding to an RFP if you don't think you have the capacity. So if you need 21 days, you say you need 21 days. If they don't give it to you, then you say no. Because what you don't want to have happen is you try to do it, it doesn't look good, or something goes wrong with it, and then later on they're telling people, don't put them on your bidders list. They da 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 da. Don't do it. Also
Thank
with
you
pay
for saying
terms.
that. Yeah, I wanted
Yeah.
you to say that to people because
Mhm.
it's important.
Thank you. Yeah. And then also with pay terms, don't be afraid to negotiate your pay terms because as somebody on the purchasing side, I have my marching orders. I know what my pay terms are supposed to be based on what the company is telling me to do. But when it comes down to a negotiation or you're about to receive a bid, you need to say what you need. Because what you don't want to have happen is you accept our net 60 because our terms are net 60. You accept that, and then later on and come back and say, no, this is not going to work. I need you to change it. It's hard for us to go back and change them. It's
Yeah.
not impossible. It's just difficult. So if you can't handle that, you need to raise your hand.
And do the contracts vary in length? Do you guys do them by like a base year?
Mhm.
Or is it different? Is it based on the services that is provided, or is it like at least 1 year term? And are there renewable options, things like that?
Yeah, most of them are basic 3 years. So most of them will be a minimum of 3 years if it's like some kind of service or an extended negotiation. The max is usually 5. So usually what people negotiate is a 3-year contract with the option to add 4 and 5. Right. And so anything that's just kind of a spot buy, they usually don't put a time frame on it. But yeah.
It's a great
That's what it
question.
is. Mhm.
Are you attending any big national conferences this year that we could come say hi?
I'm going to WeBank. So if y'all are going to be
You
there,
don't
I will
like
be at
merch
WeBank.
here.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm saying naughty words, but
No, it's not naughty.
I
We're all doing important work.
I'm WeBank
I won't
certified.
have a
I'm just
Yep.
kidding. I'm
oh
giving
yeah.
Kimberly over here, she's to my left, so I'm just
Oh,
nudging her a little bit virtually.
no, all good, all good. I'd actually like to go to the WeBank conference. It's just kind of being surrounded by everyone in your industry and meeting people in person, because we all get so used to only seeing these little squares. And I
Yep.
sometimes, even when I met Rose for the first time, it's like a celebrity moment, you know?
It is weird when you see people in person. But yeah, I'm gonna be there. I won't have a booth, so I'll be walking around. I'll probably be coming to visit you at your booth, because I'm not gonna have one of my own this year. I typically do MMSDC's event that is called the MMPC in Michigan, and I'm almost always at the NMSDC conference with a booth. So those are the ones that I know for sure that I'll be doing this year. Every now and again, I'll kind of do some other random things in the meantime. But I will be at WeBank this year.
And then we'll be inviting you to our NABO events as well. We have
Okay.
really fun, great events coming up. And I actually have a question about one of the original slides that went into your diverse spending goals. And you said that about you have a 10% diverse spend. Was that a spend goal
It's
that
a
you said?
spend goal.
Spend
So
goal. But then
we try.
did you say that then 2% of that was for WBEs? I just want to make
Hmm.
sure I heard right.
Yep,
Okay.
you're right.
So
Yep.
just 2% bringing in women owned. Okay, gotcha.
Hmm.
And so,
And initially, Volkswagen was only looking at MBEs, but then the last manager ended up implementing the WBE piece of it, and she started it off at 2%. And so far, we've not moved that at all, but I
mhm,
can see that changing at some
yeah.
point.
Well, we certainly have a lot of women over here at NABO who have many of the skill sets that I'm sure Volkswagen would be able to utilize in all different areas.
I
And
hope so.
absolutely. I mean, absolutely. This is just a fraction of our community. So absolutely. I'm trying to think if I myself have any more questions. I did get a little confused. I am still learning all of the acronyms in this industry. There could,
Mhm.
if there were a book of acronyms, it would be a very thick book for sure. And I wanted to make sure that everyone was clear on the RFQA and the GPSON. Since you need those, you need to check those off. That's, to get through that portal. So if everyone's clear, great. If not, is there
You can
anything,
let
is
me
it
know.
just a matter of checking it?
You just
It's
check the box.
okay.
And I have seen situations where people didn't have the boxes checked and an RFP has gone out. They have to log into the system, hurry up and click the button and wait for it to refresh, so that they show as having it um, in the system, and then they can receive it. But I just rather you go ahead and do it now so you don't have that. Definitely.
Okay.
Question. So if we request just a one-on-one meeting and we get through the registration, is there a box that you go in and you say like, hey, Ms. Locke has spoken to them so that VW knows that you've talked to us and we've kind of had an introduction?
There won't be anything in the system or anything like that, but what you can do is either you can send your introductory note to the buyer, or you can just let me do it and put you in copy, and then you can just take over the conversation from there.
That's
It's
awesome.
however you prefer to do it. I'd like to be able to, like I was talking about that training, like to basically be able to have a transcript and be able to say, I've talked to this company, they've gone through this training, I've looked at their capabilities, here you go. You know what I mean? Go ahead and reach out. One day.
And so at this point, you don't know exactly like what type of opportunities that you need for this year.
Not yet. And the crazy thing is, you would think that I would have been getting a business plan for years. Even when I was a buyer, we would have business plans, but we didn't necessarily share them. And so I'm looking forward to it, because now I can kind of put it out there and tell people in advance that this is at least what I know we're looking for. If anything else comes up, great. But I'm not sure what's going to be on there just yet. But I'm supposed to have it in February, so.
In
Do you know,
February.
do you know how many suppliers that VW has?
Ooh, in our system, I know we have more than 3,000 in our system. Now, how many we're actually using? Not that many. We're probably using about a third of that. It just kind of depends on the topic. You have some people that registered many years ago, they're still in the system, they still go in there and update things, but they're not, actively doing business.
These are all good questions. Any other questions that you have? No? All right. Hi, Audra. I see you logged on. But Shaquanda, thank you so much
No
for taking the
problem.
time just to chat with us and taking all the time to answer all of the questions, and just also making yourself available by sharing your email. It really means a lot, and I look forward to just continuing these conversations, continuing these webinars, and maybe we
Yes.
can delve into some other topics and go a little deeper, and just so that we can all make sure that we're showing up as our best
Oh,
certified.
for sure.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure. Yeah, I
absolutely.
appreciate you for inviting me and being open to talk to me. Because had you not reached out, I wouldn't even, I wouldn't have this opportunity. I wasn't even familiar with Novel at one point, but I appreciate you and thank you for asking me to come.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait to meet you in person. And a lot of our women will be at our conferences as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who participated in the call. And thank you for all of your questions. I really,
Thank
really
you.
need it. Everyone have a wonderful day and go out there. Get
Yep,
that business,
get her
right?
done.
Let's sell something.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank
Thank you.